Hey there, folks. This is Andre the Game Idea Guy, and Nintendo is doomed. Irreparably doomed. Because they're going to fail with their next platform. Yep, they're going to fail. And if you don't believe me when I tell you they're going to fail, well, then you don't know who you're listening to. No, I'm just goofing around. I don't expect Nintendo to fail with their next platform, but that's beside the point of what I'm doing with this discussion. So it's going around that people are asking if the Switch Successor should fail. Like it needs to fail so Nintendo's creativity can, one, stay high, and two, so that we can get a platform after this coming generation that blows everything out of the water. And this is from people only talking from the perspective of a home console, forgetting that the Switch serves the purpose of both home and handheld console. Because when you look at the handheld side of things, even though sales lower, they still consistently sell good with handhelds. And again, Switch serves both purposes. It's plug and play, and it serves both purposes. So, taking that into account, I'm not expecting the Switch Successor to have the same number of sales as the Switch. That's just, you can't expect that. It can happen, but that doesn't mean you can expect it to happen. So I'm again not here saying, oh, Nintendo's going to fail and then they're going to rise again like a phoenix from the ashes. No. As far as I'm concerned, they're going to sell well, probably to less than half of the Switch user base, depending on how well they market the product, how useful it is, how easy it is to use, and how many games that they bring to the forefront. One thing that really did help the Switch a lot was social media, whether people would like to admit it or not. And social media wasn't as big when the Wii U came out, at least not in the same way, especially since Nintendo had no control over their own narrative. They would do interviews and go to different game magazines and talk about their products, and at times their words could get twisted, and then those twisted words are what the public got. The gaming public in general, but generally the public anyway, because remember, game magazines and stuff used to be sold in stores. Not so much anymore. I haven't seen one in a while, when I'm out at least, so. But that said, Nintendo having control over their own narrative as far as what information gets out and who gets said information helps with a lot of that. It helps breaking down a lot of the confusion. If Nintendo had the same tools that they had when the Switch came out, before the Wii U came out, I don't expect that the Wii U would have done massively better, but it probably would have done better. Because the information source would have been Nintendo, not others acting as third-party sources to said information, or who could skew said information by pretending that they didn't know that the gamepad was part of a console and that it just ended up working with the OG Wii somehow. Looking at you, Adam Sessler. But even with all that said, is it wrong for people to be worried about this? I wouldn't say necessarily. I wouldn't say necessarily that it's wrong for people to be worried, because if we're going to say that this is an established pattern, which we can't just yet, because the pattern has to repeat itself, and it hasn't. But if we're going to assume it's a pattern, then yes, you would expect that there is going to be a steep drop off after this platform. It's going to be a steep drop off. I remember when people were trying to establish that Nintendo was in a decline because every home console from the NES forward to the GameCube, home console sales declined, and that the Wii was a misnomer in that, because then the Wii U declined. But it's good to see that people see the pattern a little bit differently now. So there's that. And again, like I said, Nintendo has control over social media. But there's the thought that the next platform has to fail for the one following it to succeed is weird to me. Because we're going to the point now where Microsoft is failing as far as the gaming side of things is concerned. That's why they're switching themselves over to basically working on nearly everything in your house, because their physical platforms are not doing well, and they haven't been making any money off of them for some time. So if we're to say that failure is needed to be successful for a console platform from one generation to the next, what happened with Microsoft? But if we're keeping it a buck and we're going to assume established patterns, what happened with Microsoft? Because I'm pretty sure that's going to lead to crickets. That's going to lead to silence. Microsoft just has never really been successful with consoles, or at least in a way that made money outside of the Xbox 360. That's it. 360 was the thing that made them money. After every other home console that they have out has not made them money. Their services are making them money, but their home consoles have not. Which you would think that would mean that more developers wouldn't want to work with Xbox, or wouldn't have been working with Xbox back then. But again, that's only clearly a Nintendo problem. That's not a Microsoft or Sony problem, because they'll support Sony when it's ailing, and they'll support Microsoft when it's ailing. But Nintendo, oh nah, we need y'all to get y'all numbers up first before we do anything. But to not stay sidetracked, I get where people are coming from. I get what their worries are, or what their thoughts are. I just think that in order to have those thoughts, in order to have those worries, you have to overlook other obvious information that's right in front of you. Like Nintendo consolidating all their offices into one building, consolidating from having two separate platforms down to having one, which allows them better output, allows them to have more projects on the table at the ready, gives them more flexibility, allows them to put more out, allows them to hold back some if they need to. There's a definite way to do more stuff for themselves, because they have more control over what they're doing. That's why they're spreading out to being multimedia versus just video games and some merchandise here and there. They're branching themselves out, creating more, doing more, and it's looking great. So again, where I understand why the worries would come, there's still so much potential stuff we have no clue about that's coming. I know for a fact that there are more Switch games we don't know about. I don't know what they are. I just know there are more that we don't know about. Because the lineup that we got for the rest of the year, there are some spots where they can shadow drop some stuff. And they more than likely will. And that doesn't necessarily mean with a Nintendo Direct or a partner showcase. They could just drop an announcement trailer for the launch of a game at random. And I wouldn't put it past them to do it. And that's the other thing to consider. Like, you don't know when new stuff is coming out for Nintendo because they don't tell you when everything's coming. That's one of the reasons they were so heavy-handed about leakers. Because they don't want their information shared before they can actually share it. Now, think of how the even with the negative response that came from it, think of how the Emio situation would have gone if leakers would have been spreading information. It wouldn't have had the same level of impact. It wouldn't have drawn the same amount of interest. And that clip probably would not have gone as viral as it did. So that's something to consider. And with Nintendo having more control over the information that they can put out, and it can be the correct information based upon what they have about their own platform, should be far less confusing for people. I mean, obviously there's going to be some people that just don't get it anyway. Either they're being obtuse or they really truly just don't get it. But even then, that's fine. Because we're getting to the point where the information spread is being able to be spread in a way that is beneficial. And that's what Nintendo has been paying attention to. That's why, while I understand all of the dooming and glooming, I'm not like sitting there like, oh yeah, I agree 100%. You're right. No. Just because you think you see a pattern doesn't mean there's a pattern. Because the pattern has to establish itself a few times for it to become a pattern. We're still in the phase of establishing the pattern, not the pattern is already established. But yeah, I think that's enough. Because I could carry on, but I'd really just be repeating myself over and over at this point, and I'm just definitely not in the mood for that. So, anyway. If anyone would like to add anything and say anything, comments or whatever, please do. I look forward to it. Otherwise, thank you guys very much for listening. Keep your eyes and ears out for more stuff from me. And until the next time, enjoy your games. Peace out, everybody.